I did want to spend a few minutes talking about assessment, because we have great assessments for phonemic awareness. Super easy to figure out very quickly if our kids have phonemic awareness or not, right? 5 minutes. You want to go into detail, the CTOP is going to take longer than 5 minutes, but that gives you a lot more specificity about the nature of the trouble. Phonics, very easy to do a core phonics survey. Spelling surveys are fairly easy, take time to analyze, but they're pretty easy to administer for sure. And they elicit really good information that can drive instruction. But when it comes to vocab, morphology, we have some assessments, comprehension, syntax, we don't have the same kinds of assessments that are available for those constrained skills, because some of these comprehension related skills are less constrained. We do have some standardized subtests. For sentence comprehension, we have a subtest from the CASTLE that speech and language pathologists might use. We have listening comprehension subtests from the Woodcock-Johnson and other reading achievement tests. Some of them do have a listening comprehension subtest, and it's really important that we measure that. If we see our kids struggling with reading comp, we need to measure listening comp, because we have to know, is the listening comprehension the driver? Sentence recall is a great way to assess syntactic awareness. The SELF, another speech and language assessment, has a subtest for sentence recall, and then the test of written language has a subtest for sentence combining that I actually like a lot too. So we do have some standardized subtests, but most teachers are not going to administer those standardized subtests. Those are left to the specialists. So what do you do in lieu of that? Well, an oral language assessment where you just ask a student to repeat a sentence is actually really interesting to tell you if they have syntactic awareness. He asked his mother if he could keep the cat, and the student might say he asked his mother, can he keep the cat? So it's not that the student had trouble remembering the sentence, it's that this student doesn't have syntactic awareness of that particular construction, if he could keep. So instead, he translated it, mother, can he keep the cat? This is actually from the oral language acquisition inventory, which is not widely known about or used, but again, it's a sentence repetition task. And you can see in this example, the student forgot or left out the apostrophe s, the possessive, in the first sentence and omitted part of the verb, or actually the linking verb was. He omitted the fanboys, so, but, and so, and again, that was because not because of his memory probably, but rather because of his syntactic awareness of those cohesive ties. There is another assessment that is relatively new, the CFAL. It's a diagnostic assessment that's published by Acadians, and it does measure syntactic knowledge. So you could take a look at that. But in the absence of the formal assessments I just mentioned, teachers are encouraged to observe their students' use of verb tense and subject-verb agreement. You know, if you're listening to your students and there's a lot of language happening in your classroom, oral language happening, you're going to know the kids who have trouble with that, and you're going to explicitly teach that. You're going to informally pay attention to your students' grammatical knowledge. Now that we've unpacked all those grammatical building blocks, are they using those building blocks in their oral language and their written language? Do they understand and can they find the subject, the predicate, the direct and indirect object? Do they know about clauses and phrases? And are they able to construct simple, compound, and complex sentences in their oral work as well as their written work? Again, this is something that you can probably glean from your instruction. So just to summarize what we talked about this morning, Syntactic awareness contributes to text comprehension, which is why Cheryl Scott says sometimes it's the sentence that's tripping the kids up in reading comp. We can't just go right to the discourse level. We have to figure out, are students struggling with syntax? Not all students need explicit teaching of syntax, right? But the students that generally need it are the students with language-based learning difficulties, the students that have language comprehension difficulties, are multilingual learners, and they really do need and benefit from this explicit teaching that we've talked about. We're going to teach the function of words and sentences. We're not going to have them rotely memorize the definitions, and we're not going to have them circle subjects and underline predicates and so forth. We're going to have them use the sentences and orally produce and write and comprehend them in a more functional based way. Because syntax does play an important role in the ability to read fluently, it's a very important part of reading fluency, comprehending text and writing a variety of sentences. And last but not least, I hope that I've incentivized you and encouraged you to look at your text analytically for the possible sentence level difficulties that might arise when you're teaching those texts and those sentences. As I mentioned, I have a lot of references here, more here, and a few resources. There's so much out there, and you all have some great resources. So I'm encouraged that you're well on your way to continuing your syntax journey.